Great. Okay, looks like we're live. So thank you everybody for waiting. I really appreciate your patience. Today we have something special for you. This is quite a large scene, so we've had a little bit of a technical challenges just loading up and getting in here, but this is part of the research of Collab. So today we've got Collab Pioneer Team 1 joining us today. Min Gwen, Scott Robertson, Nicholas Gecko, and James Robbins, who isn't able to join us today, but they've done some incredible work in here, and we're going to have a look at what they've built together using Collab. And so, yeah, I will just give it right off to you guys to take it away.
Yeah, welcome to our scene. I'm sorry I have a little outside noise. I may just take a quick jump out and have him stop that, some construction, so I'm sorry. Let me just jump out 1 minute. Min, can you talk about our teamwork, just as far as, our approach, and I'll rejoin in 2 seconds.
Yeah, sure. Hi, welcome to our room, Team 1. We're really excited to be a part of this project, and it was tremendous fun to do this collaboration with 4 of us located in different parts of the world, like Scott and James are in LA, I'm in Vancouver, and Nicholas is all over in Sweden. And it was really fun to do this. And early on, we wanted to, just make a scene that's like try to totally, see how far we can go with the collab, and we decided to do this air show, sort of like a metaverse platform airfield that's floating in the air, and sort of like put our elements, James with his vehicles, Scott Robertson with his vehicles, Nicholas and me with our mechs, and our collaboration was actually the architecture is where we all kind of jived in, and kind of complemented each other with we built the towers and some platforms, and here you're going to see a mix of a mixed medium. So we used a bit of kit bashing, and we brought some objects from 3D in here that has textures. For example, this Mac here is actually a kit bash from the big, medium, small.
To your left, Jaren. There you go. I'm back.
Yeah, so this one is from big, medium, small. So it has like a mech parts, and people are also in that collection. And we were able to bring in the textures, so they're all UV'd, and you see it translates really well in Gravity Sketch. So it was a crash test for us. We wanted to see how far we can go. You're back, Scott?
Yeah, I'm back. Sorry, I missed the intro part. Too much noise around here today. But I think maybe I'm sorry I missed it, so if I repeat what you said, Min, bear with me. But I think that when we approached from the very beginning, the idea was, what does VR do that's, a real superpower? Like, the immersive nature of VR is so much fun when you're in headset. So we decided to go big, right? So our tower here, that is our airfield, is sitting on a tower you'll see in just a minute. It actually measures in real 1-to-1 scale 800 feet from the ground below up to this airfield you're on right now. And so we wanted to basically go big to immerse us into a space that could support many, many narratives. And so that was the approach, and that sort of led us to, well, let's just do kit bashing for the most part. And as Min mentioned, let's collaborate on the architecture, which is really just supporting the placement of these little sort of micro scenes. So there's narratives you're going to see in the viewpoints as you tour around the space that are sort of hinting at all sorts of storylines that could be happening. So kept it super fun for us. because it wasn't actually a design project that felt like work. It really was akin to like a bunch of 12-year-olds playing with Legos. And so by gearing our project in this sort of kit bashing assembly mode, it meant we got to get right into Collab like in meeting number one and roughly sketch out our ideas. And we were actually then kit bashing in our second meeting. We were up and running, and then we were maxing out the system in our third meeting. So it's been super fun to get in here and play around. So I think now this is our main sort of area where you port in. And as Min mentioned, this is sort of a alternate reality air show. So we have spaceships, we have airplanes, we have blimps, and then we have this sort of pseudo sci-fi environment wrapping around this space. And we used all the sort of classic movie/video game staging tricks. You're effectively inside a large bowl that has a texture map on it with other floating elements for the clouds in the distance and those domed shapes. Nicholas did a fantastic job painting other vehicles flying in the sky around, and those are part of our texture map. So we're going from 3D to kind of 2.5D, like the jet trails, the fog is kind of what I'd call 2.5D because they're on planes that are warped to have a certain shape. And then we have strictly, of course, the texture mapping 2D element combined with it. So I think, Min, if you want to go through viewports, or Jaren, you have any questions? You're kind of new to the space. What do you think?
It's just
let me know when I can lift the elevator with your spaceship.
Yeah, you want to activate? You can bring it up there with that blimp on it.
Yep.
So we have some interactive elements. One of which is this little airship with a little tow vehicle, and we've had fun like figuring out animated moments, right? Just by grabbing and constraining and moving things in single directions, or even we do a little tricks while we're all working in Collab. We put a little on the same layer, for instance, we'll put a little marker way off in the distance, and then we'll position ourselves way outside the scene, and we'll grab the little marker that's part of the same layer, and then we'll fly a ship through the scene so that our headset in our hand isn't attached to the ship. And so for the other people in the Collab, they can actually see it and experience, and it feels like a ship actually flying through, or in this case, an elevator elevating up this airship. Because underneath this top, where the landing strip is, there's an entire hangar, as well as a restaurant and a loading dock. So that will become revealed here as this goes down. Like I said, this thing is kind of huge. I think, Min, if you guys want to start hitting some viewpoints, then you'll start to get a better sense of the scale.
Yeah, we recommend using viewpoints for this scene if you have a chance to look here. Okay.
So now we're down at the loading dock on the hangar level. And what you get a sense of is that it's very easy to make this into sort of like a dollhouse or a play set that's in 3/4 view and sort of tiny diorama in front of you. But really the beauty and the fun of it when you're in headset is that when you are closer to the proper scale, and as large as we can make this, we can only make it about 30% of 1:1 scale. If we go to 1:1 scale, we start to get into clipping plane problems with the backdrop. It'll start to disappear and clip. But around 30%, it still feels like you're immersed. So it still works, I think. So that's a lot of fun. So you could flip through. And we're also doing the viewports. We're not flying from viewport to viewport. So if we ever release this model, you'll see that that's the better way, is to go instant. Because if you fly, it's just going to be a little too much motion sickness. You'll see a little play on words here. If you figure out what that is, a submarine sandwich, and this is Dee's Delicatessen.
Can you guess it?
Where they sell subs. That's right. So this is Sub Dee's. We only had enough. Our model is already huge, but you can imagine what we really wanted to do here was completely build out this delicatessen. So in reality, this would be full of chairs and people, et cetera. But we still have a lot going on. But we wanted to have an experience of now being on an interior and then looking out windows and seeing the exterior and getting the parallax shift of that spaceship flying by outside the windows. So what we did is we set up where you have the pillars, right? You have people, the pillars, the backway in the distance, and a ship in the midground. And then you get that nice parallax shift. And the sense of being in the space is really, really fun. And we use the jet trails, which are just a PNG transparency mask. It's a white, basically fog. It's only the same one everywhere, actually. We just distorted it. You put it on a single NURBS surface, and then you can stretch it and move it in any shape you want. And then we use those as jet trails, and it really extends the feeling of the space and the dimensionality. And since we didn't really have any real animation, it still feels like things are, alive. And so we use those as our scaling element to show direction, motion, that sort of thing. And you can see you can spend a lot of time in here and go in and frame all sorts of shots for narratives and just start taking snapshots, right? And then do paint overs. There's a lot going on, and what makes it super fun. And so it's sort of, there's a lot to discover. There are a lot of Easter eggs. There's lots happening. Maybe pick a different viewport, Jaron. Jaron, I'm looking at your screen, correct? On
Yes.
The feed? Okay, yeah. So now we're back down. Now we're up top on James. So we sort of each took a platform. Min has got his mech sort of all through the whole environment, the whole space. But this is the platform. James has his ships. Nicholas has a platform, and then I have a platform. Those are the higher up positions where we each just put whatever we want there. You're probably a little too close, Jaron. If you back out a little, you get the environment back. You can see it clipping. There it goes. Now you're good. So, yeah, I would just use the viewports. I wouldn't try to move. It's so glitchy. But they should put you in the right scale and the right position to then. And then when we look around with your head, we found that being in that was such a large model. When you look from a viewport and you're actually in headset, it's very, very smooth. The frame rate stayed really high. It's when you actually start to manipulate the model in order to move and through it, that's where it gets a little glitchy. But it still was very functional for us to map out the scene. These are more of those transparent PNG smoke and mist layers, so you can see how it's nicely blending. So if they're close enough, they won't clip, and they'll nicely blend with the background elements. And I think you just can right-click with your thumb, and it will toggle you through viewport to viewport. You don't even have to bring up the interface, Jaron. There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. And now, so we tried to pick some that give you the sense of height. So now you're over on my platform. We got a ship coming down to grab the bigger ship. There's one of Nicholas's early firefighting mechs there. And then you can see the domes off in the distance. Go ahead, hit another one. There we go. Now we're back to sub Ds. Right now we're end of the runway. So you'll see some planes taking off towards you here. And then you can probably turn around even a little bit, Jaron, and look over the edge. So there's a whole ground down there, and there's all sorts of stuff going on down there too. So there's people in jetpacks flying around between the rocks down below. There are a couple of base jumpers going off in parachutes over there to your left. There's viewports for all that. So if you just keep clicking your right joystick, you'll eventually get over there. Yeah, you're there now. There's a guy with a jetpack. Oh, now you're really clicking. There's a guy in a jetpack flying up between the balcony. And if you turn to your right, you're going to see a person sitting there probably, and you can look over the edge, and you'll see a couple of base jumpers that have just left, and now they're popped their parachutes down below.
Wow.
So, and there's one there just off to the left who hasn't pulled his parachute yet. You go over by her and just look over. There you go.
Oh, wow.
So you're effectively 800 feet in the air here above this ground plane. And if you grab the tape measure, you would actually measure it and see it's 800 feet down to the bowl of our texture map. All the background is one layer, one texture map on a bowl. Nicholas, do you want to talk a little bit about how you made that nice texture map?
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty straightforward. I generated a terrain in Gaia. It's like a software for terrains, and rendered 360 view in cycles in Blender. So yeah, and then I converted it to PNG, like transparent PNG texture with alpha transparent layer, and then I imported Gravity Sketch. Yeah, and using this revolve tool, we created a dome, like a bowl, and just texture it in Gravity Sketch.
Yeah, Jaron, if you look straight up, you'll probably see, I think there's probably towards the very end, the last viewport. You see a circle up there in the sky is the top of the bowl. They're out of order now, unfortunately. But it's probably the numbered camera, the last camera. You probably will take you way up there. You could also turn off world space so you don't have that green line running through the entire scene all the time.
Oh yeah, good point. Let's see real quickly. Yeah.
World axis.
World axis.
Yeah.
This is the last camera, but I can just move up there.
Yeah, it'll take you a while, but there it is. No, camera 20. Go to back to the top. I just saw it on your screen. Hit that. There you go. We planned ahead.
Wow.
So there's the entire scene, and now you get a sense of the bowl. And we've got those clouds and those domed large structures in the distance. And you see we just warp them around, right? And then we could place them while standing virtually in one-to-one space on the airfield. And we played a lot with that. And we played a lot with like what's the best position so it doesn't clip and feels good without us having to get like too far away from one-to-one scale. So that was a lot of the sort of optimization that we did on our scene. But you can see that there's a lot of stuff there, and there's a lot of fun parallax shifting. And the way to get back is just right thumb again. It'll take you to another viewport because all the other viewports are down in the scene. There you go. So, yeah, I think that's Nicholas, Min, anything you want to add? But that's kind of it.
I guess feel free to just explore, and then as you go, we might, talk you through some Easter eggs. Maybe let's see if you can find them.
Wow.
I don't think it makes for great viewing, but yeah.
Oh,
I hope we
right.
can someday release this model if we figure out how to optimize it even further. So
Will this be? Oh, this will be available for the public, right? For the rest of the people.
This is that's completely up to you guys. If you want to share it with the community, I don't think we have an issue sharing it at all. It's completely up to you.
we may need to lighten it a little bit, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe we can do an abbreviated version of it, because I think that the fun elements, we could pick like the couple of viewports that are working the best and then optimize just for that. But there are some really fun moments and great compositions. So maybe we keep those elements, and other things, we can try and minimize a little bit. But the feeling and the sense of height, so Jaron, look over the edge there to your left, right? It really works. Like it's just, it's so much fun seeing that parallax shifting and those flying elements in space. And you really get a nice sense of, oh wow, I'm really up in the air.
Yeah, I mean that's just one of the immediate things when I first jumped in here. Just the communication of scale and dimension is just off the charts, and it just makes it feel so grand. That's why I think I would love to share it with the community, just to show, I think, everyone else what's possible, what kind of experiences that you can have in VR. Not just experience it, but the fact that you can build it, you can create experiences like this. Yeah, it's just incredible work. And the texturing too really gives it a lot of life as well, and which unfortunately is probably contributing to some of the heaviness of it, but I think also makes it feel so much more immersive as well. And it's obvious that you guys had fun with it. I mean,
Yeah.
all of the
We
elements here. I mean, all of you bringing in your bits of expertise. I mean, I'm familiar with with each of your work, and so you can see that evident here in the space, but it all like beautifully works with each other in this I guess unique world. It's really cool.
Yeah, I have a question around that. Like, how do you actually work together, and like what
Yeah.
was Collab bringing to your workflow that before, when you were doing it solo, you were not being able to do it in that way? What was the special part of Collab?
Well, I think the immediacy of being able to move things and stage things when working with a large environment was one. I think that it also made it really easy for us to share tips and tricks along the way. So each one of us learned new things. But it was more the fun, I would say, of bringing our prefabs into the scene and saying, oh, I've got something, hey, check this out, right? And bring in something, and what do you guys think of this? And so there was an immediacy that was very akin to working in a studio, right? With a bunch of people all working collectively on something. So I think that part carries over extremely well. We didn't actually try to design anything beyond our staging our scene in Collab. We went away and did our ships and assets, and then we would just bring them back through prefab. And then we would really just work on mostly the environment and the architecture together. That actually happened in Collab. We did all the trusses, and because those were really low poly, and so those were things we could actually manipulate without too much lag. But all the sub D stuff was done outside, still in Gravity Sketch, but done, let's say, solo.
And was Collab your main point of, like, your main place where you were communicating, or were you using other mediums to communicate?
The only thing we did was use an Instagram group chat just to coordinate meeting times. But after the very first meeting, we set our meeting times to twice a week. So every Wednesday and Saturday at 1 p.m. Because 3 of us are on the West Coast and Nicholas is in Sweden. And so we picked a common time there. And so that was it. We just set that from the first meeting, and those were the only meetings we did. And that was the only collaboration we did, was just inside Collab. So all of our planning about other things to do solo between meetings happened in Collab. Our sort of to-do list of like what our target was to bring back to the next meeting. And then we would just go off and we would do those things, and we would show up and usually get in just before 1 o'clock and start loading in those assets. So say Nicholas was going to update the background image, right? So he might go and do that between one of our meetings and then have it already loaded in. We'd jump in, pull in the new stuff through prefab. And then towards the end, I'd say the last 2 meetings, we're trying to optimize, add details, graphics, try and optimize some of the weight of the scene. Although it still ended up, I think, at the very end, the heaviest file it's been. So it unfortunately, it's almost really impossible unless you just really set that as your only task, because it's too much fun to build. Like, we just couldn't stop. Even though we're just tweaking things, we just couldn't stop, adding polys, tweaking stuff, because it's just such an enjoyable experience.
Yeah, it was impossible. We kept promising, like, okay guys, don't add anything. So we kept sculpting. Surprisingly, we never step on each other's toes. It was really kind of organic, I would say. Each person was working on their own field and area, and I loved that we could spitball ideas on the fly. And also directing too. For example, the scene with the restaurant, right? Like someone was standing in the restaurant and was directing, like, hey, can you move the spaceship towards the right, to the left, or up and down?
Yeah, that's actually a good point, Min, because you can't actually do that easily. You'd have to go and sort of teleport back and forth between those 2 positions, because you can't reach the ship from the scale and viewing position of where we wanted you to stand in front of the window, right? So it needed to be like a 2-person operation. to get our compositions right. It's like you can't reach it when you get to the right scale where you're sitting on the sofa, for instance.
Well, like you said earlier, Scott, I mean, like the set dressing aspect, I mean, you're really directing each other too. I mean, that's what's so amazing about this is the power of being able to get together like this isn't just creating, but actually like directing an experience, which is really cool to me. It's all the things: directing, creating, talking. It's just like it's what we would get, in the real world, but virtually, it's kind of like boundless possibilities because it's virtual.
Yeah. Totally. Yeah, it was endless playset basically, right? And that's where we just had to stop. We actually quit like a week early. Before the deadline, because we just couldn't stop making it heavier, adding more things. So we just said, all right, let's bail. We have enough. We're done. So
it's very obvious especially when you're in here. I mean, it's definitely not conveyed in 2D at all.
No.
The depth and the dimension of everything, but when you get in here, you can tell like I can feel that you guys wanted to add probably way more than this even, but that
that's what keeps me super excited about the future, right? Imagine this in 3 to 5 years with new compute power and new headsets, and how amazing it's going to be.
Oh yeah, with PBR materials.
Yeah.
Yes, it's like a film set, like you can shoot a movie here.
Yep.
I'm imagining. I mean, your viewpoints, the way you set it up, are I mean, it's obvious you very much imagined it like that, right? Like, these are actual camera shots that you could have in the
Correct.
story of the space, which is really cool.
Yep.
You were telling us something really interesting when we had a call some weeks ago, that it would be great to have kind of like audio in this.
Oh yeah, we were gonna fake it. We were gonna have a sort of ambient background noise playing for this airfield of propellers on the airships and jet engines and whatever else, and there's somebody over the PA down on the airbase, and it would be really fun if you could also make it sort of proximity based. When you go to each viewpoint, you would hear a different soundtrack. That would be really immersive, and I think it would really set you in the scene even more.
Yeah, I think that's a really cool idea, and there's so many uses for that, right? Not just immersively, experientially, but we've heard ideas on using that type of feature to just leave feedback and thoughts as well, so that you don't even have to be there at the same time, but it's sort of this. It makes it this like living room that's always alive and always growing, even when people aren't there together.
Yeah, correct.
But that's a really cool idea.
What is this way of working bringing to your workflow, you think, moving forward?
Oh, there's an Easter egg. Kieran just said.
I see it. Yeah. Wow.
And there's a guy there. He's was he painting it or trying to clean it off?
He was painting it.
He was painting it. So
initially he was gonna clean it off, but but the graffiti should have been a little bit more something more provocative than
VR.
than VR.
Wow.
Danielle, I think what does it bring to the workflow? I don't know of another way you can do this. With that is this immersive, right? I mean, VR is the tool that allows you to do this. I can't get this feeling on a flat screen. I mean, I'm looking at the feed now, and having spent time in the space, I know how different it is to be in the space. And so I don't think you get it another way. So I think this is, that's what it brings, is that option.
And in terms of the collaboration aspect?
Well, Min, like the point Min was bringing up, controlling the ship from the outside to get the composition of the shot we wanted was a two-person job, right? So I don't see how that's done also easily while you're immersed. There are things, and then also the division of work was really fluid and simple for us to do between meetings. So I think the fact that it just felt like we were hanging out in a clubhouse or in, somebody's basement playing with Legos, and we were just like, oh, wouldn't it be cool next week if, blah, blah, blah. And we would just go away. Each one of us would think about that and then just bring back something. It's almost like a little surprise for the team. So there's a sense of, instant communication on the tasks at hand. And then there was this sort of gift, sort of surprise moment when you bring something fun to the set. And that was, I think, exercised, time and again between, from meeting to meeting. I mean, we spent in our sessions were usually, what we think we average around 2 hours.
2 to 3 hours.
2 to 3 hours per session.
And it would fly by so fast.
Super fast.
Yeah.
Ridiculous how fast. And that's just a testament to how enjoyable it was to hang out as a team and just riff. And it was fun, like a couple of people might be up talking about placement of ships or ship design or architecture, and somebody else might be, painting the VR on the side of the thing. So a lot of times it would get really quiet, and I wouldn't even see where people were because they would be off in some corner because our set is so large, right? You many times don't even see the other guys, but you can hear them. And so what's really fun is that even though I don't know where anybody is and I can't even see their headsets because they're at a small scale relative, to where I'm at, I can hear them spatially. So I sort of know where they're at as far as, the direction of the scene, but we can basically talk while working without, having to see the other person. And I think the spatial audio is actually much stronger than seeing the icons. The icons for me were actually starting to get, a lot of times if you're all looking at the same object, they're interfering and overlapping with each other. So I find the audio to be the most satisfying part of the collab when actually, getting into details with someone or planning or talking about design or shortcuts or, tips and tricks.
Yeah, and we didn't have to sort of use a third-party apps like Google or other call apps to do this. It was just straight up in the Gravity Sketch, which was amazing.
Yep, correct. Because usually it's a flat screen. Let me share my screen, right? And you're in a UI from Zoom or something or Google Meet, and then you're trying to talk through this flat screen. That was all gone. It was all just a singular experience, and it's all in VR. We're all immersed. We're all in 3D. So there was a lot of like calling people over for consultation. Hey, come over here, and then you had to actually tell people where you were. Right? I mean, they have the spatial audio, but our set's big, so you'd have to say, "Oh, I'm on the hangar level outside sub D's," right? And then we'd all sort of, shuffle over there, and then have a discussion about, this corner of the hangar. What do we want to do here, for instance?
And this might be maybe a bit obvious of a thing to say, but I'll just say it, and that is that, quite simply, each of you have your own, I guess, tricks and tips and ways of working, and you've all brought it together in here, and I'm assuming you've shared it. I mean, you've obviously shared it with each other, like the texturing, the bowl sort of workflow of bringing in like this environment, from Nicholas, bringing in the domes, like it's only from a collaborative type of a way of working can you share these bits of knowledge and tricks. Whereas if you're just one person, this might not be it might take you maybe a longer time to arrive at some of these things, and so it's like, that's just another beautiful aspect as well, is that I think being able to wield a tool like this as an individual, that journey of being able to wield it and use it in new ways is exponentially increase by working with other people, because they've done things that you haven't done, or they've done it a slightly different way, and that's just super cool to see here evidently, visually.
I think
Yeah, actually, we had like a small feedback session with guys like on my Mac design, and what was cool about this is that Scott suggested one thing for the design of the Mac, and he actually tried it right, like I mean, on the fly. I didn't had to go like in my personal file and tried it. He tried it in the scene, like live, suggesting like the design solutions. It was super awesome.
That's cool.
I think a couple things I would add to that, Jaron, would be that if you think about the productivity side of things, I think we probably did 7 meetings, and let's say we averaged 2 hours. It's only 14 hours, right? This whole scene came together in 14 hours. Now we're using a whole bunch of prefab things that we spent time individually doing, but still, to create this scene in 14 hours, right, that has all this immersive nature to it, and is obviously we wanted to add 10 times more details and things, but still it's super entertaining to be in. That's pretty compelling, and it makes a great argument for this. The sum is greater than the parts, right? Because the feeling in this and the surprises that people bring by having multiple viewpoints on a singular experience was sort of endless, and that's why we had to just stop. Right? It was like we're gonna completely crash it. We're already crashing it. So, but it continued to surprise each meeting we had. I found it very, very enjoyable to hang out with the team and just spitball ideas. And even if I'm just working on a truss down below in the hangar, right, and I'm just listening to the rest of the guys work on stuff and chatter about whatever movie they're watching while working, and meaning that they've seen already, not while actually in headset. But although that would be a cool thing, right? Floating video panels would be another thing in addition to the audio. That would be awesome to have.
Oh yeah, that would be amazing.
Well, and of course, additional lights and things like that.
Yeah.
So there's no real lighting control yet. So.
Right. Yeah.
Well, it's great that we're getting to this part, which is what would be your top items for your wish list.
Well, I think for me, it's not actually, and you'll see in our experience here, it was not actually about modeling tools, right? I mean, yes, we used a lot of modeling tools, but we used them outside. But the collab experience was really about this sort of prefab and immersive experience that we brought all these things together. So that really got down to presentation in a lot of ways. So I think that we would all love to have higher fidelity, which is, I think, a given all the time, that you always want more in regards to lighting control, cast shadows, material indication. And then a big one for us immediately would be if we could extend the clipping range, right? Because we can't actually get to 1-to-1 scale and still see our clouds and our background. We can only get 30% of 1-to-1. So optimization of textures and extending the clipping plane for me would be big ones for this experience. You'll see, like the ship you're going up to right now, Jaron, I left it in low poly mode because it was far away, right? So it's an example of trying to do some optimization. All the other ones, and in fact, all of our sub-D surfaces are in the lowest sub-D mode in our model. And then anything that's really far away from camera, we left in this faceted, super low poly mode because it really just became a silhouette. And then at a certain point, you just have to make the decision. I could do that with a flat card and a transparent PNG. But right now, there's some little lines left around the perimeter of a PNG. Even though it's transparent, it still puts a little white line around it. So there's not fully optimized. Again, texture optimization. So I think for me, it would be on the presentation side of things. I think the modeling tools are super powerful.
I would say the same. Anything that improves presentation. So to the point where you know, as you work, it's like sometimes you just want to sculpt something in Gravity Sketch and just share it on Instagram. But I wish like the presentation was a little bit better. Like I'm talking about lighting, material, so like straight up from Gravity Sketch screenshot, and it would be good enough. So I don't have to, finish the modeling in say Blender or Keyshot or anything like that.
And Min, just to ask you a little bit more in detail on that, what sorts of features or functions that could you see in Gravity Sketch that would give you that greater level of presentation or visual quality for sharing?
Specifically with Collab, I know that HDR wasn't available here.
Okay.
We really wanted to take advantage of that and have some clouds. But we found another cheat, which is like bringing the PNGs. But if like the HDRs could, the environment could react to the HDR. But I know that that is possible in normal mode, right?
Yes.
Visually.
Yes.
The shadows were clipping a little bit here and there. What else?
I would say instances would
Oh,
help a lot.
yes. Yes.
Like
And that's
instancing
very,
like objects inside the scene and instancing your standalone scene, like your private scene, connecting it to the collab room, and like so it would be like it will give you an opportunity to update your scene inside collab without sort of importing exporting procedure that you have to do all like every time when you change your original scene in standalone mode.
Yeah.
and it should be translated to the another program too, the instancing itself.
Yeah.
So once you export, the instancing is still an instance, so it's not like a unique object anymore.
Right.
Yeah, like we'll never get this model out of here. Like, unfortunately, we can't take it in and do a really nice rendering in Octane or something. It's just not. We can't export it. You'd have to do bit by bit, and it's gonna it just. I don't think it would work. It's massive. So
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good instancing is one that we've heard. I've heard quite a bit from the community, and I think might actually be something super necessary, especially if we're talking about what we've been talking about with Collab and the fact that things exponentially grow when you work together. I mean, instancing is going to become more important there, I think. So that's definitely a good point.
And another pet peeve is maybe more primitive shapes, like options. For example, the cylinder could be editable into like, you can choose how many edges you want. So it's not just a cylinder. That could be useful.
I think you can do that.
Yeah, I'm double checking, but I think that's something you can do.
Yeah. You have to hit the customize button.
Yeah. So if you go to the primitives and you hit customize there, and then you go down top right, customize, and then you switch that on. Sorry.
There you go.
You switch on customize, and then you go over to cylinder.
Oh my god.
Yeah, and then you can change
See?
the number. Yeah.
So
Hey, you learned something new.
yeah, that's why collabs is so useful. You learn.
Yeah, exactly. It's
See?
awesome.
So
No,
you
but
just gotta-
that's a great point, man. Like just to bring it home to Collab there. I mean, like things like this is what happens all the time. I mean, even me included. When I'm, working with Emil or anybody else on our team, like we're just like, have you tried this or check this out? It's just like always learning.
Oh my god, I didn't know this. That's
Well,
awesome.
I just want to say this is incredible work, you guys, and we've learned a ton, and it's been super invaluable the feedback that you've provided, and just the fact that you've absolutely destroyed this scene with the amount of data is so cool, and it is helping us find the limits, where the edges are basically, in capability. So it's been super helpful I know it's been super helpful for us and the team. So thank you very much, and for all the time that you've put into it. So yeah, it's been really wonderful.
Thanks for the
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
opportunity, yeah.
Yeah, it was great fun.
Thanks so
Thank you.
And yeah, amazing work. I can't wait to go inside when I
Yeah,
can.
it totally transforms when you're in headset.
Yeah, Daniela, I can't wait for you to check it out either. Hopefully we can figure out the performance. I mean, that hiding the layers like that definitely helped a lot. So maybe there's something to that.
If we could give control to independent visitors to turn on and off layers, right?
Mhm.
Then we could start it empty, and then after people are in, they could turn on the layers themselves.
Yeah.
But right now, you can't control other users' layers.
You actually can now.
Can you now?
Yeah.
Yes, I've tried it today, and you can hide like everyone's like
Okay, cool.
layers, someone else
great.
layers. Yeah.
Yeah, because when
That
we
was-
started out, we couldn't do that.
And that was, yeah, exactly. That was one of the things that came out of the Collab Pioneer collaboration. So, you know, real time making changes for you guys.
Perfect.
Awesome.
Love it.
Thank you.
Love it.
Sweet. Well, thank you all, and thank you everybody that's been watching. And I hope you've learned something as well. And yeah, well, I guess we'll end it there. Thank you so much.
Great. Thanks,
Thank you.
everybody.
Thanks,
Thank you.
everyone. Bye bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.